Yo, we're all here. Now we can start. Yes. Benny, can we get a recap, please?
We certainly can try. All right. So, real quick though, John. I have a question. Is there any chance that Peter even shows up at all, even just to like uh, be
He doesn't have a
around?
phone.
He does not have a phone.
Oh, he's not even coming tonight. He's coming tomorrow.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
his train's supposed to get here at 5:55 tomorrow, so he should be back inside the house. Even if the train is a little late, he should be in the house by 6:30.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I was just wondering if it's like maybe just coming later on.
Wait, are we gaming tomorrow?
No.
I don't think so, unless everybody can, because I thought I was off tomorrow, but it turns out I'm actually off Friday, so I could do tomorrow.
I don't think Peter can.
I can't do tomorrow. Sorry. That's just the way it is.
All right. So we shall continue, I guess, with the same disposition as the last time we left it off. So, on the last episode of what did we call this? You're getting
You're
railroaded.
getting
On the
railroaded.
last episode of You're Getting Railroaded, our brave adventurer, were last seen hurtling into what we assume is outer space. We had an introduction to a very strange fellow who had the head of a bull, seemingly like a minotaur, however we pronounce it, head, and his trusty companion, servant Jeeves, and
Jeeves.
the adventurers were tasked with finding an item,
Vial.
a vial of some strange brown dust that just so happened to be in the middle of a desert, and they were teleported to this place. And nothing really happened, and they got it, and they came back. That's it. Very simple. Probably one of the easiest jobs they've had. Giant scorpions and Thrycreen marriages notwithstanding, brides, and a lot of tears and suffering. So I just want to go over a little bit of who's the most badly hurt. I think John took a little bit of right face.
What is hurt?
What is damage?
What are hit
There's
points?
damage in this game?
Yeah, out of 45 hit points, I have taken, I think, 16 damage. I can check my character sheet in a second, but
Okay.
I know I was definitely dealt 12 in one shot.
Yeah.
And then I think the second time was 4, and I believe those were the only 2 times I took damage, so that should be 16 damage.
All right. And what about you, Ralph? Because I know you probably did.
Out of 84, I'm down to 67. So I'm okay.
All right.
Actually, hold on.
However, he is technically the most heavily damaged.
Yes. Also, probably the most heavily armored.
This is true.
Now that you mention it,
No, because that's only about like a quarter of his health, and I am technically down a little over 33% of my overall health. So I think I'm the worst off.
Ratio-wise, son. Ratios.
So wait, what you're telling me is you hurt yourself today.
Nope.
See if you still feel.
I was stabbed by a bunch of Thrycreen. I don't think that counts as hurting myself.
Why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you doing that? And they're just making you slap your own face with your own hand, your own sword.
Why are you stabbing yourself? Why are you stabbing yourself?
I just want a quick thing. I'm gonna try this. I don't know if it helps with the momentum of the game or anything. I want to see if I can get an initiative roll from all of you now, and then that way when we get into anything, we can then just use those scores as they go along, and then that way we don't have to sort of slow down as much. I don't think it's gonna save much time, but might as well try it out.
Hold, friend. I choose not
Please
to.
roll a diplomacy. Roll a persuasion.
Can I roll deception instead to deceive you that I roll dice?
Well, like we said, if you die in this game, you die in real life. So you can just try to deceive me.
Except
So
I
long
don't
as-
have a life,
so
so
long-
you know.
All right, we got a 13. 12.
That's my usual perception on this guy. Or initiative. Wait,
I accidentally rolled in rolling room instead of general.
That's all right. You will be punished accordingly.
Got a 19 though. That's good.
19.
No, 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 19.
I just had to verify. Yes, I am. My character is being played by Benny's campaign. Yes, yes, yes. Words.
Those were certainly those. However, they did not seem to be in the correct order.
All right, cool. So I've got 19 for John and a 12 for Rafael. Is that right? I think I might.
13.
All right, and a 11 for Maven.
I got a 14, I think.
What am I typing? Oh, I'm
What are you looking at?
No, I know what it was. Fucking around with I'm changing the AC on the initiative tracker, not the not the actual initiative, which would be useful considering that's. All right, so 9 for Krzysztof, 14 for Maven,
Seems like it would be.
13. Oh, all right, cool.
Well, I mean, rolling dice doesn't have to make sense.
That's very very astute. I like that.
You can just have us roll for random shit and then just decide how you feel.
Yeah. Yes, that's what this game should be all about. There should be no
Oh,
dice. It's real life, right? We should just be like, Krzysztof, do you hit this monster? And you can say yes or no. And who
Nah,
am I to judge?
let's be honest. Nah. I crit it though.
I crit.
I completely missed, but I crit.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I've got that out of the way. All right. Do you guys remember that you're basically hurtling out of the atmosphere of Toril for all intents and purposes?
Yes.
I do not remember that. I remember being in a house and then being in a desert and then being back in the house.
Okay. So yeah, so we'll go over that, right? So basically, what ended up happening was when you came back, C ended up putting the vial in his
Right.
case and asked if everybody was sort of ready or wanted to take a break, and just instead of really waiting for an answer, he said, "I'm in a rush." Sent you guys up. You basically smashed through the roof of the manor through the
Okay.
second floor, yeah, and just started hurtling at an incredible speed. Definitely reaching escape velocity as you arc like some beautiful shuttle. As you go where no man has gone before. We'll find this probably not true. So as you enter, what you can only assume is the darkness of space, and Toril and Faerun and any of your families, everything you ever knew.
Wait, are we playing the same campaign?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Everything you ever knew is behind you and getting farther and farther by the second. You notice, how many of you would know anything about space at all, or the vacuum of space?
As a child, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Benny.
Yeah, I wonder.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You tell me. Would I, based on what I know?
So here's what I'll do. I'll at least make you make. In this case, I would imagine it's a nature check. So I'll just have you make a nature check just to see how much you would know.
Okay.
The thing about that is I'm super into space, and but that didn't really happen until after I moved out of the city. So I feel like for role play, my character would not. They'd be cool with space. They'd be like, "Whoa, this shit is unbelievable," but they wouldn't actually be like, "Oh, well,
Like studying.
honestly, we should be burning viciously."
Yeah, it's a shame it's not a survival check because that's much higher.
Yeah. All right. So either way, I'll say. I mean, honestly, you all have probably looked up at the stars at some point. and not known. Maybe you had different. Maybe you're flat earthers. Maybe flat Toralers. Maybe
A giant tortoise in the sky that supports us.
right. Yeah. Maybe it's just that some god poked holes into the tapestry of the sky at night, and maybe that's why you see all of these little points of light. I am loving these rolls. I'm probably not going to love the 20s and 19s you guys later on. So I'd say these are not bad. So we've got a 14 multi-meter.
There we go.
Actually, it's an 11 and 16. Oh, there you go, Rafael. So, I mean, this isn't such a big roll anyway. Krzysztof, at least, so everybody sort of gets an idea, like, this doesn't seem like it's going to be, like, this should be possible. First of all, in terms of the speed that you're traveling, you've probably fallen or been maybe tied to catapults and accelerated at high speed while you were on land. And you're maybe familiar with, what the limits of the human body are when it comes to acceleration. There goes John with the 16. And so you're pretty sure this is something that's not normal. Whatever method is being used to propel you.
What is the speed at which we are traveling?
Well, roll me a geometrics and trigonometry.
You know that's actually a feat in Pathfinder?
It's trigonometry.
Or some shit like that, like you could do some like ridiculous shit with trigonometry in fucking Pathfinder.
Yeah, there's a feat called sacred geometry.
There you go. That shit's fucking ridiculous.
Well, if you want to at least maybe do the math on your own, I can only give you two variables. There is time and there is distance, right? You can only imagine how many miles or feet or kilometers, depending on what side of Faerun you're from.
I actually measure in furlongs, excuse you.
Furlongs. Oh, of course. Yeah, you would, actually.
Imperial or bust?
Imperial, that's right. So that's definitely in the Far East. So, oh geez, what is that? Is that an intelligence roll? What is this? Ridiculous.
Yes.
24. I just saw.
Yes,
Right.
it is.
Wait. So for the nature roll, at least for the most part, you guys know this isn't normal. Krzysztof also would know, and this is more just not necessarily the nature roll, but there's supposed to be a mechanism with which the human body, and thus maybe even elven and dwarven bodies, but you guys wouldn't know anything about that, would need to breathe. And so far, you aren't exactly choking yet, as far as you can tell. You're not that far removed from.
Perhaps we're going so fast that even though we're in outer space, the minor quantities of molecules that are passing through, enough oxygen is being forced down our lungs, so we contain ourselves.
It's about
The lungs are a closed system. We wouldn't necessarily like combust or anything. We just, the pressure might do something, but like we just gonna die.
And we'd completely sear all of our flesh off.
That and the radiation that's gonna happen from the sun, from that,
Right.
from not having an iron core.
The ozone layer.
You guys are fucking nerds. Anyway,
Oh, wait.
just kidding.
I got a 24.
You did
on
get a 24,
My
yeah.
mathematics.
You get to tell everybody else why they're not choking or whatever on on space dark matter.
All right, so Johnny's a bit of a prick. So as we're flying, I start to explain, and then as I see confused faces, I say, air plus speed. You know what? Just fuck it. Magic. Magic is why we're alive. Don't fret.
I ain't gotta explain shit. It's magic. So
It's magic. I took the DC Comics approach.
yeah.
A wizard did it.
One thing you do notice, all of you actually, is so as you were whatever direction you might have been looking, those of you that maybe have been looking out, as you were in the atmosphere, you obviously had tears that were starting to form just from the sheer speed at which you were flying, and they dried up almost instantaneously with the speed that you were going. But now you're no longer feeling that sort of um, I guess you could say the resistance of an atmosphere at this point seems almost effortless. Your hair, anything that might have been sort of flowing, which would have been rattling at that speed, um, or just flown right off of you, really. Um, doesn't seem to be affected as much um, by the by where you are now, which is definitely in darkness. And you have not slowed down. You are probably accelerating, but at this point, your reference for um, you know time and distance are just they're out of your hands. There's nothing that you can just say I've passed that building at this speed, and maybe you see some debris, some rocks, stones that you had no idea were actually just floating around out there. So as you travel, if you can call this traveling, this is really more just you're along for the ride, really. Um, you get to a point after a couple of seconds, and in this, you know, this is really meant to be a terrifying experience for the human body, and so those couple of seconds is enough to probably bring down a weak heart. But for the most part, I'm assuming you soldiered through. All of you are fairly strong of will and body, and so you get to a point where, um, let's call it space, right? Let's call it what it is. Where space itself seems to start warping a little bit, and it's not necessarily that the speed that you're going maybe seems to start warping things around, but it's almost as if you're poking from inside of a balloon and your finger starts to stretch the surface of this balloon. And uh, that's sort of the feeling you're getting. So the four of you are all on top of your familiars. Let us not forget Owler and what is Maven's familiar? Does Maven have a name?
Yeah, Sekhmet.
Sekhmet. Oh, Sekhmet and Owler.
I heard
Uh,
Sucknut.
Sucknut.
That's what I heard.
So, I'm assuming are there H's in there after the K's?
Sekhmet.
Oh, see, I had it in my
Sekhmet.
mind.
Okay.
Sekhmet.
Yeah, Sekhmet. Yeah.
I heard sack nut.
Yes, you uncouth individuals. How dare you
Sekhmet.
disrespect Sekhmet? So,
Sekhmet?
your familiars as well are traveling with you. Any familiars that may have been attached to shoulders will still be there along for the ride. Any that were just free in free space are basically in their own. So eventually it warps enough that a sort of reality warps to the point where um, you feel as if you've poked through, and all of this is happening such a such a quick moment in time. Um, you really can't collect too much information as to what is going on. This is the first time maybe any human has been to where you guys are. Um, you, Eventually, you poke through whatever this fabric is. Um, Maybe some of you think this is what the sky is. You've gone past the sky. Who knows? Um, and when you do that, sort of the space around you becomes a little more, you'd say, misty. There are many other adjectives we can use, but you get the idea that sort of fabric of space has changed just a little bit, and it's almost like you've entered a different zone of reality, and you're not entirely sure what's going on. And
Damn, a zone.
It's then that you realize, if you look at your hands or any appendages or anything, that you might be distracted in this moment of terror. That there is some sort of sheen of protection around you, and maybe that might explain why you guys haven't died in the vacuum of space. Um, so you travel for a couple of more seconds, and honestly, many more seconds than you really want in this state. Um, and again, you get the reverse effect. There is a sort of balloon sort of effect, like the finger poking now into the balloon, and the mists and all the any sort of ether that's around you sort of begins to warp, and you could see the sort of outline of what you are approaching as another sphere. Actually, in this case, it does look like a large, empty, for all intents and purposes, this is a balloon, right? Some sort of empty sphere that's a little darker than the ether around you. You poke, eventually, you keep poking at the speed you're going. Reality warps again, and you pop through, and you can almost hear a sort of pop if you were able to hear it all um, in this place. And as you continue hurtling, you are treated to an image of uh, things you cannot even begin to understand. My God, it's full of stars. You've got uh, things that look like gases, maybe poisonous gases. Often, the distance, they seem like they're close because of the size of that body of gas, but you can tell it's not moving at all. It doesn't seem to be relationally changing at all as you hurtle towards it and almost on a trajectory that leads you away from it in a way. Um, Basically, you're in a place you have never seen before. The sky looks nothing like the sky that you are used to. There are no constellations um, that maybe a young John would look up on the rooftops at night, on lazy nights, and he'd look up and count out the constellation. Maybe he had a favorite constellation. Does John have a favorite constellation?
In real life?
Well, we can use a real life one. I mean, I can't expect you to know a constellation from a fantasy world. That would take nerd. So if you want, yeah, you can pick it out. You can make one
That's
up.
incredible metagame right there.
The Dragon Tail
Yeah.
Nebula.
Yep, there you go. I mean, I've always been a fan of Lyra, so...
Okay, Lyra. So, you don't see any constellation that even remotely looks like Lyra.
Whoa.
There's nothing. This is completely alien to you as a place. Anyone that has ever looked up at the stars, maybe used them even for navigation, um, on a ship of some sort, would definitely have no idea where they were in this moment.
Would I be able to speak in this bubble thing?
I really don't know. You can definitely try it.
So I look to the rest of them and I try to ask, are you guys aware of what we're in right now?
So what everyone hears is, I'm gonna fuck your mothers. No, what everyone hears when you say this is, you hear what he says, but it's almost as if the words are being spoken as a whisper directly into your ear, as if someone had placed their mouth by your head and spoken to you. Uh, and it's not as if you can see where John is in relationship to you, but it's not as if he's yelling across. You definitely don't hear that. It's almost like it's not even mental. You definitely hear it in your ears. Your eardrums are vibrating, but it's almost as if he's right next when you speak.
So gingerly violating our personal space.
Yep,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
that's the best way.
he's a close talker. Yeah. So, so it's the concept of navigation by the stars, and I don't want to get too wordy. I've already been too wordy. Sort of comes into sort of clear focus here. As you continue to hurtle at speeds that defy the mind. Again, you see a lot of particles. You assume they're rocks. They are passing by, at a speed you can't even understand. Some of them sort of slap at you at this speed, and they deflect for what they're worth. And in reality, if this were to really hit you, you'd probably die instantaneously. It would pass through you like a magical arrow of some sort. So as you continue, you see something starts coming into focus, and you're not entirely sure. I would like, I guess, all of you to roll a perception check.
I'm just a little heartbroken that everybody heard me tickle their eardrums and nobody...
Yeah, these guys don't know how to role play, dude. I'm waiting waiting
just
for some
be
roleplay here.
violated like that. And you know, with a perception roll like that, I probably didn't notice you violating my eardrums.
Oh,
That's a pretty crappy score there, Krzysztof.
yeah.
I'm not sure. You know, I wasn't paying attention to what was violating my eardrums.
Oh man. That's all right. So that's gonna. All right. That will. Yeah, that's gonna be good time.
Oh, I'm in the wrong room.
It is the rolling room, so it's not really like it's against decorum. So we've got a 13 for you, old Peter. We've got a 14 for John, a 23 for Rafael, and a Juan for Krzysztof. So, what all of you sort of just see a speck. You can tell this is something that is actually changing in relation to you. So you know this is something that's nearby from what you can tell. It's sort of right now it's a speck, but in time, and you assume with the speed you're traveling, this will soon be more than just a speck. But from what you can sort of tell, it's almost like you're looking at a sort of let's say some four-legged thing that may have a head, and it's very, very far. We're talking if you put your hand in front of you, it's the space between your fingers is basically how small you can see. But you know, Raphael was able to. He's got a sharp eye. He's been a soldier. He knows how to look out for things.
It's the contacts.
Usually for danger. Sure. And yeah, you've got the contact lenses, of course. And you were able to sort of pick that out. This is something that is, okay, this is nearby. You're not sure what it is. Krzysztof, on the other hand, what happens when you peer deep into the darkness of space?
I look directly into a star.
In this case, you don't notice any really nearby stars. You are in a place that is fairly dark. You do see you could say the glow of what, if we want to metagame here, there is a nebula nearby enough that you get to see color from that. But you don't see any star. What you do see is you see images start to take over you're maybe familiar with this feeling. You're surprised it's happening now. But what soon starts to happen is blackness starts to creep into your vision on the side. It's
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
yes, the darkness that maybe you felt your whole life. Who knows? Maybe this is a new relationship you have with darkness. Begins to sort of creep in until it envelops your entire vision. It completely, you can no longer see anything. And in that moment, you instantaneously, an image of a place appears before you. You are now no longer where you were. Your reality is now standing in a very strange way. You're not sure how you got there. And has this ever happened to you?
Once or twice.
Okay, so it's the kind of thing that you're familiar with this. This probably has happened to you in your dreams, or when you were in times of high stress. But this is probably the most clear it's ever been. For all you know, you've heard tell of maybe astral projections where somebody sends their mind to places. Maybe this is something like that, but you're not entirely sure. But where you are is a place that you can't really understand. It's a room that seems to stretch. It's a fairly large room. You could say 20 feet across and maybe 60 feet down. It is strangely appointed. This is no place that you have ever been. There are, from what you've seen, furniture. You have seen seats. You've seen paintings. and there is an approximation of that here. You're not entirely sure what this is. This is maybe you can't even imagine that this is even some place on Faerun. Um, this can't be anywhere on in Kalimshan. This can't be anywhere in even the farthest reaches of Shaolong in the east.
Shit, son.
Yeah. This looks very strange to you, and this is where you are. What do? You're not traveling anymore. You don't even feel any sense of weightlessness. No.
So
So,
okay. So I see this room, and I'm the only one in this room.
You are the only person in this room, as far as you can tell. If you would like to roll a perception check, you may do so at your leisure.
Let me try to see what I perceive in this strange new reality. Perhaps I will be more lucky. Or
That
perhaps
one got you here. So
exactly.
all right.
Maybe the one will get me back.
Yeah. So what you see is normally the traditional room of even a lavish court would have some sort of gilded edges on frames, different things that would just tell you, okay, this is made of wood, beautiful wood, ivory. Um, you're not seeing this even wood itself seems to be an afterthought in this place. You see everything is painted in a it's very geometrical, and so it's painted in a very bright white. And you do notice there is a window. It's a beautiful vista outside of this window. It is I could say it's maybe I don't know 5 feet high as a window and maybe another 10 feet across. So that also seems a little strange. The craftsmanship of this window seems out of place, but maybe not out of place here. Um, so I don't know, you know what you expected when it comes to craftsmanship, but who knows? But this is definitely strange. It's the the lines of the window. If you know anything about architecture, right? I mean, who knows? Seem
Yeah,
to
of
sort of
course.
meld into the wall almost, with no noticeable framing. You're not even sure how they were able to build this thing. Maybe it was made by magic. But the view is a beautiful one. You see blue skies, see a little bit some clouds, and you see trees below, leading off into sort of rolling hills and some mountains off in the distance. Um, but aside from that, it seems fairly idyllic. Depends on what your idea of idyllic is
Okay.
outside. In the room itself, um, like I said, you see furniture, strangely shaped furniture, um, and but in almost the same traditional arrangement. That's one thing you do note. There are uh, tables in the places where tables are normally, uh, you know, chairs in those same places. Uh, Picture frames of just strange geometry, geometric shapes. We're looking at triangles and circles, and just that normally you would see the bust of a lord or some sort of tribute to a family member up on the walls, and there's nothing like this.
Okay.
Dodecahedrons.
All right. In that case, I will burn this place to the ground. No.
Do it.
There has to be loot here.
I mean, I am gonna start looking around the room,
Mhm.
for anything that might hint me as to where I might be. So, books, perhaps a map, perhaps a talking head or a skull that appears to have glowing eyes, anything that might hint as to what's going on here or where I am.
Okay. So as you begin to search around. Roll me an investigation check in this case. That searching. I like how Rafael is rolling. You are rolling,
he's
right?
doing it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely didn't find any shiny shit.
Rafael, what you find is disadvantage on the next 20 rolls. Now,
Hey.
oh, look at that, 25. Jesus Christ. So you start searching around. You do a pretty thorough job of this. Are you like knocking things over, like like some burglar, or are you sort of searching in a reasonably calm sort of like?
No, reasonably calm, because then if I start knocking things over, I might end up missing something, and that's just inefficient. I've burgled before. Wait, what? Sorry.
All right, so yeah, you definitely search around, and you start with the places that sort of seem like chests that are in the room in the corner, and you look on the table, and you really don't find much. You see a lot of um, paper. You see books that seem to be written um, in what you assume is, you can read the words.
Mhm.
The words themselves are readable to you, but they don't seem to form anything coherent at all. Like, you could say, you know, you might see the cover of a book that says, uh, bubblegum cranberry octopus, right? None of that makes sense to you, right?
Ah,
So,
yes, this makes total sense. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes so much sense.
yes, it makes all of the sense. It has come back around on the circle of understanding. So, so you see all these things, and none of them seem to sort of catch your eye. It is mostly books and uh, just strangely shaped sort of statues, things that don't even seem to have gems or jewels in them. These sort of, it's a strange austerity that you've come across here. It's very clean. You do notice that everything here is very clean. There's a sort of rug, you know, that in certain parts of the room, sort of just to, just to tie the room together, so to speak. Um, so you do notice on the table, there's a sort of dining table in the middle there, and it too is white, and you can tell that it's made of wood, right? In this case, it's a sort of very sturdy wood, um, and in the middle of the table, in what you could call a sort of like a bowl, right? Fairly large bowl, but there's something in the center of this bowl. Um, and when you actually, at first, you didn't really think much of it. It just looked like part of the same um, stuff that you just see around,
Mhm.
um, bauble, things like that. But this sort of catches your eye. This when you go to lift it, I should say, go to touch it.
Yep.
Um, and the second you touch it, you are hurtling through space again.
God damn it.
The only thing that's different
Jesus
is that
Christ.
it's still in your hand. the This is a sort of cube that, let's say, it's a few inches across, um, and it's just, at this point, you're not sure what to make of it.
Mhm.
You have just, for all intents and purposes, anybody that might have been looking at you, you've just seemed to produce an object in your hand, and with that,
Sad.
you die. No, so
I'm used
yeah,
to it.
so if you want like a sort of description, um, it's about, you could say it's a few, like, it's 3 inches, and it's definitely cubic. Uh, you know, it's got all of the, it looks super well crafted. The sort of thing that, if there was a perfection of cubes anywhere, this would be the platonic ideal of a cube. And with that, you notice, uh, as you come out, it's as if no one noticed that you were gone. Something happened to you. Time did definitely pass, and there is physical evidence of that. But right now, you're in the same predicament you were a few moments ago. And so, as you all, as we continue now with the rest of the group, um, you all start to notice things are starting to get a little bigger, and you start to notice, like, sort of, you notice it's not just one speck out in the vastness of space. Again, if we use the hand, holding the hand out in front of you, sort of measure of size, it's starting to become the size of a finger, right, to your perspective. And you can all sort of, by this point, at the speed you're traveling, you have reached it to the point, you reached the distance to the point where now you can sort of make out two distinct objects. One of them seems to be, as far as you can tell, it is a dragon. It has the sort of
What?
head of some. It has the head of a dragon. You can, at least your tales and children's books and maybe artwork that you might have come across. Maybe some of you have had dealings with dragons. It definitely is the head of a dragon. You see the arms as well. You do not see wings. That, for in the traditional sense, if this was a flying dragon, it doesn't seem to
Chinese
have
dragon.
the same wings. Yeah, that you're used to seeing on typical depiction of dragon. But the other object that is about the same size, they seem to be right next to each other. Um, the other object is in a completely different shape, and from as far as you can tell, it almost looks like. Um, any of you guys know what a nautilus is?
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
ship.
No, no. Well, that's yeah. There is. They call it something with the ship, but I mean the actual animal.
Yeah.
Nautilus. It's like a shelled thing with, and it's sort of a spiral. You guys ever see that? Like, it's a shelled spiral, but not.
It's a spiral shelled cephalopod.
Yeah. So something like. I'll see if I can just get a little picture. That way you get an idea. What you might be looking at. And in fact, I'll just that what you're actually seeing in a bit. So this is sort of, this animal is what is evoked when you actually sort of take a look. You see the top of this,
God,
and
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
it's important to note that things are happening. They're basically below you. Let's just say in the 3D realm, this is sort of below you, right? You are above this scene, this tapestry of wonder. And as you get closer, again, we're traveling at such fast speed, your brains are processing all of this information. And Raphael, with that one, you notice that maybe it is edible. It's possible. If you got close enough, you can eat this. But within a very short amount of time, you realize this is probably impossible to eat, at least in one sitting. As you get much closer and closer, you realize these are no animals at all. These are not actual, you know, biological beings. And from what you can tell, there are actual little explosions going on in different places, in between them, about them, and you're getting closer, and it just keeps getting closer. It doesn't look like you're slowing down, and you realize you are headed directly for the nautiloid ship, in terms of your trajectory. And there's really not much you seem to be able to do about it. So you keep getting closer, you keep getting closer, and the full size of this, in the split second before you impact the sort of top part of this, uh, your brains all sort of realize these seem to be ships. Somehow, there are ships that are in space. and the
Like,
realization of that. Yes.
do they look like spaceships, like what we think spaceships look like, or do they look like boats in space?
Yes, they look like boats in space. And I will show you, might as well give you some actual
Awesome.
image of what you guys are seeing. If I can get the damn things.
We're taking a tour of different D&D campaign settings, everyone. Welcome to Starjammer.
Woo!
All right. So the first ship that you guys were able to spot from a distance looked like this. Let's say, right? This is a depiction of what you're seeing, and that's the first ship. But the one that you're actually about to impact, because that's really what's about to go down, unless something very special happens. That would be this one, right? Now, there's a little bit, and this is just drawings, obviously, on the internet, so it's not exactly to exact scale here. But
Wait, am I allowed to show it without infringing copyright?
well, I'm not sure. These
Oh.
probably came from the old TSR, TSR books,
Gotcha.
something like that. But which I don't know if they're probably owned by Wizard at this point, but who? But I googled them. All right, so eat shit. So the deck. Let's call one the sort of Nautilus ship, the other one called the Dragon ship. The deck on the Nautilus ship is a little longer than the image here, so there's actually a surface, and your faces are about to basically come right into contact with this thing. And in that split second, again, I want to describe that this looks like there is some sort of battle going on between both ships. There's maneuvers going on. There's what you can tell quickly is giant ballistae are shooting out across the darkness of space whenever any projectile misses, and some cannon fire here and there, and you smash right through the deck. You go right through. You are still alive somehow, but again, you have smashed through the deck, and that seems to slow your progress down in a way that again defies physics. At the speed you were going, you really should have went completely through, but you didn't. You ended up smashing through the deck and then hitting the next level below and leaving a sort of, all four of you and your familiars seem to impact the ground in whatever awkward directions you were facing at the moment. And you are now on the sort of lower deck of whatever this ship is. And the other thing that you've noticed now that you are here and sort of no longer moving is that you do hear the sounds of battle. You can actually hear. It's not like what it was before. You couldn't hear anything when somebody talked to you. It wasn't normal. But now this is sort of like you may be back on the sea. You might be on any ship at the sea, and you can hear the thwong of a large ballistae. Yeah, just basically releasing all of their tension into some gigantic bolt meant for destruction.
That sounds sexual.
You can feel the throbbing hard cannonballs flying out of the unleashing their load onto the other ships.
Oh my god.
Hey, you asked for it and you got it. Sexual innuendo when it comes to spaceship to ship boat battle. And you hear, along with the sounds of battle, you are hearing screams, you are hearing people yelling commands at each other, and for the most part, where you are now, you can't really. It's common. You think it's common, but it's very stylized. There's some slang maybe that might be being used that sounds outside of the common parlance of pirate ships. If any of you spend any time in Skullport in Waterdeep, or maybe even on a pirate ship yourselves, maybe that's that's something you might have done once in a while. They are speaking common from what you can tell, and most of it is grunts at this point, and yells for assistance, and on one side you can hear somebody screaming in a hurried tone to sort of load up some sort of weapon of destruction.
Oh my.
But in this moment, um, you are not in any trouble that you can tell. You have your assumption is that the damage you have caused to the ship is par for the course in the middle of whatever this battle, has engendered. So maybe just another cannonball striking through the deck. Um, Now, all of you, please roll me a perception check.
And just to be clear, we landed on the Nautiloid ship.
You landed on the Nautiloid ship. Oh, look at that. Giant bowels. Oh, look at that. I hope everybody rolls a 15. Oh,
Holy
shit.
shit!
Don't fuck this up. Oh.
God damn.
You had to be a motherfucking asshole.
I'm consistent with my 7s. If you scroll
Yes.
back up.
Yes. So, all of you, for the most part, with the exception of Krzysztof. So, I mean, obviously, Krzysztof, you can see where you are.
No, I'm paying attention to my hypercube. Let's be real.
Yeah. The distraction, though, sort of leaves out the rest of the details. You. What did you do with the cube, by the way, once you've landed, like putting it away or whatever?
Yeah, I guess I'll put it in my bag. Yeah, why not?
It doesn't seem to have any sort of war-like anything that may help you this moment, but who knows, right? So yeah, you definitely put it away. That's fine. And what the rest of you notice is that you are on the sort of level of the ship where they are, and I'm not too familiar with. I'm sorry, I didn't have enough time to prepare my nautical knowledge of terminologies here, but you're on the level of the ship where all the cannons are sort of loaded up. And this ship, your immediate view, you can see at least 3 cannons being loaded up and being fired, and the sound is deafening. Whenever any of these cannons go off, it's very loud. On top of just the frantic, just sound of battle. The smell is not great either. It's very sweaty, but it's not unlike the smell of maybe an old folks' home. Sometimes, space pirates maybe get a little lonely. But what you do notice is that there are at least 4 individuals loading cannons in this section here. And one of them is sort of going between them as he barks out orders. And he's the one to actually fire them. There's the 3 individuals on the cannons seem to be, their duty just seems to be to load and stuff the whatever payload they've got, and the sort of, let's say, let's call him, I don't want to call him captain of the ship. From what you can tell, he doesn't seem to be dressed in any sort of way that implies that. But let's say this commander of the cannons here is the one to sort of assess that the signal has been given, that it's loaded properly, and he lights some sort of item that touches the top of the cannon and sort of sends it out in a big, gigantic explosion. And you can see, again, with your 15 perception, it's a lot to take in this moment. Through the portals and through the holes for the cannons, you can see the other ship it doesn't seem to be doing very well. This ship also doesn't have a lot. It's got a few holes in it. The hole you made is definitely not the first that it's taken today. And some of these holes go straight into the darkness of space. And you're not sure why you aren't flying out to that, but you probably don't want to explore what happens there. That's what you see before you. You haven't been noticed yet.
So I have a question.
Yes. I hopefully have answers.
Because real life Peter knows exactly who the masters of this ship is.
Okay.
does does Game Peter know this?
Wait, are these Somali pirates?
These are Somali pirates.
Of the
Now,
D&D
I am
world.
the captain. No, so what you see here, and in fact, Peter, specifically Peter, because Peter asked. Please roll me a. Are you do you have nature as a trained skill, or are you generally?
I have
decent
both
with that?
nature. I have both nature and Arcana as
Yeah.
trained.
So you can roll me a nature check first, and we'll take it there.
Did I not do that right?
Yeah. It
It's like it's
all
lagging
right.
for some reason.
Yeah. So it's with a 16. Very good. So your initial, let's say you initially had hairs standing on the back of your neck about this. You're not entirely sure why.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely felt like maybe something here, something that you didn't want to experience. But when you take a look around and sort of take full account of the humanoids, they're definitely humanoids that you see in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that they are not what you probably thought what they were, but they are. They have very strange skull-like faces, um, with, in some cases, and the the preposterousness of this scene before you is laid bare when you realize they have eye patches, just like the pirates you're very familiar with, and in fact, uh, the commander himself has um, has a very ornate eye patch. Uh, it's sort of, it has like little patterns inside of it meant to look like an eye, but it's sort of you could say jewel encrusted. Um,
Yo, he's got a bedazzled eye patch.
yes, bedazzling in space is the shit. You guys would have no idea. Anyway, um, so these humanoids, they some of them have sort of mottled skin. Some of them are green colored, so to speak, like the strange mottled green. Some of them are a little more. Uh, you could say like there's some hint of brown in the color. So that seems to be their sort of race. Um, you may never have actually um, seen these beings before, but you have heard tales that um, there are races of sort of astral travelers that
Mm-hmm.
maybe that these could be um, sort of Githyank. You're not sure
Hmm.
because you've never laid eyes upon them, but
Wait, like the weird
wizard.
snake people?
No, those would be Yuan-Ti.
Yeah, the Githyanki were originally slaves to. Well, I don't know if I
You
would
guys
know
don't
that.
know shit
Yeah,
about that.
I don't know if I would know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
So,
the Yankees?
give so I mean that's the assumption. You don't know for sure, but all the things sort of seem to point to this, and they are probably as not terrifying. I mean, you're strong-willed people. Nothing really gets to you guys, right? Um, but it is a fearsome sight. There's something when you are introduced to a new race that wells up inside of you that is a sort of that touches that lizard part of your brain. Um, but yeah, they are not what you thought
You
and that's
okay?
pretty much what you see. Um, they're very into what they're doing in that moment. Uh, they are in the middle of battle. You do see further off on the same deck. You have a lot of pillars, and that's sort of you're obscured to a certain degree. A lot of whatever you call these pillars inside of a ship that sort of hold the structure up. Um, and sort of as you guys sort of can peer through in this moment, you see movement. You see, up and down. There is a stairs at the further end that sort of seems to lead back up to the top deck. Um, but aside from that, yeah, what do you guys do?
I cast mage armor on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh damn! Like you ready?
Yeah.
You don't even have to roll initiative either.
Yeah.
How dark is it in this below deck area?
Is that you're saying that like how dark is it as like racially charged way, or you're just saying like it's lighting?
Oh my god.
Take it however you want it.
No. So
I'm gonna hide.
it is not very well lit at all. And again, just I'm not too really super familiar with what the term is for dim lighting. So let's assume dim lighting. I'm gonna look that
Low
up.
lighting.
No, it's lit enough. There are lanterns laid up that seem to be powered not by fire so much as a sort of like a greenish maybe flame inside. It might be magic, but it seems to approximate flame. Sort of what do you call it, flickers and moves about in the same way as a lantern would. But this doesn't seem to be powered by a candle or the traditional way that the lantern that using oil or something is working. So, yep. So I'm looking up dim lighting while you're figuring that out. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide.
I mean,
I don't
are we
trust
all hiding? Are we all afraid?
I mean, you can do whatever you want. I'm hiding though. Because I already know someone's gonna die.
Mm.
You're all gonna die.
I'm gonna drink a healing potion.
Okay.
That's kind of smart.
Yes. Roll a Constitution save because it's poison, bitch.
I'm gonna roll my stealth check.
Yeah. All right. So what we got? I am. All right. You are the shadow. Let's see if you really are.
How big is the room that we're in?
The room that you are in. Give me 1 second. Just gathering a face. Yeah, you are the shadows, by the way, Chris. So how big? You say the room that you're in? You're on a ship, young man.
Yeah. Well, no, I know, but it would be a room in the ship, right?
It's sort of like I don't want to use the term galley. I'm not super into boats that way. So let's just say it's the galley or whatever. You know what the second deck of a ship looks like, right? So it's about as wide as you would imagine. This is a decently large ship. This isn't like some small rowboat.
The galley is the kitchen. That
Okay.
is
Yeah.
under.
You're not in the kitchen. All right. So it's let's just say we're looking at about maybe 10 to 12 feet across, if you want to get exacting. And so, actually more than that, let's say, because now that I'm realizing, you've got cannons on either side of this ship. Only one side is actually being manned, and it seems as they maneuver, they're trying to keep the left side of the ship as oh, by the way, it is the left side. That all of the cannons are active on, right? But there are actual physical cannons there. On the right side, they're just not being used in this moment. So let's just say it's a good 20 feet. Let's just say 20 feet across left to right.
Okay.
And you've got two columns, I should say, because they're pillars and columns. You got my view there, but there are pillars sort of interspersed between you and sort of the far end of the deck. You can pretty much see all the way to the end, and that looks like I can get the exact numbers, but it's a good measure away.
Okay. And none of these people are interested in us at all. Like, there's no one that they find us or they haven't even noticed us.
They haven't noticed us yet.
Yeah, they haven't noticed you yet. Krzysztof was able to hide. And just let's go to that. What were you doing when you're hiding? Did you want to hide behind a pillar? Did you want to advance and hide? How did you want to do that?
So, like, position-wise, like, are we just, like, smack dab center in this area? Or, like, off to the side somewhere? Because obviously you said that there's, left side, right side, left side has active cannons and whatnot.
Right. So you're you landed sort of smack dab in the center, but towards in relation to the ship, you're basically almost right at the front of it, where when you land. So they're more towards the middle. They're a good, I'm going to say, 15 feet away, uh, further in to the ship.
Okay.
Yeah, and the deck looks like, I mean, you can see pretty much all the way to the end, and you see, that it continues as normal. Um, it's got to be at least 100 something feet. It's like maybe 120, 140 feet, um, going straight down.
Okay.
There's the stairs, and before that, just so you know, just so you're fully informed, the stairs going up are closer than that. So the stairs going up are about 60 feet away from you, from your
Okay.
Since the right side seems to be unused, not currently active in any sort of way, I'm gonna make my way towards there.
Okay.
And then hide behind
So
something.
we'll use your stealth roll from that. So you're gonna move, on your way to, you're making your way towards sort of the stair, right? You want to avoid so, notice and because what do the rest of you do?
I'm going to find my way to a corner. I'm going to find my way to a corner. See if I can get Ralph and John to come with me. Hide in the corner and cast minor illusion over us, so that way we blend into the shadows. And then send my cat upstairs to investigate and try to see through its eyes and see what it sees.
That's fucking smart.
That's a lot of stuff, sure. So let us resolve what. So you're saying you're gonna cast minor illusion, right?
Yeah.
What is the illusion? What's
The illusion of life.
So on a ship, let's see, what would be normal but no one would bother on a ship?
Barrels.
So, like barrels. So I'll conjure
Crates and shit.
Yeah, I'll conjure some barrels and crates in the corner around us.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Barrels and crates are the standard.
It's pronounced
spell
crate and
jammers
barrel.
on. Yeah, crate and barrel. So on Spelljammers on, if you have Spelljammers on Prime, you can get those crates much faster
Oh my god.
to your ship. So they definitely shop at Spelljammers on. There are barrels, there are crates, all of them standard size, and some crates may be a little larger than others. You would imagine this ship maybe makes sort of runs to maybe their illegal cargo. Who knows? But yeah, you do see those crates, and you manage to create some extra crates that look pretty much exactly like the crates that exist there. But here's the thing: so minor illusion, it does say something about nothing larger than a 5-foot cube. So I'd like to see how creative you get there if it's an object like a chest.
Isn't he an illusionist? Can't you like buff it up?
I can't. It doesn't extend the area that minor illusion exists around. So, are there actual like crates or barrels around?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you want, you may actually intersperse your illusion or illusions apostrophe, or I should say parentheses s parentheses closed, in between, such that you're creating a more continuous line of cover.
Yeah. I'll do that.
Sure. Ready?
So I'll do that, and then I want to send the cat up the stairs so I can like kind of spy through its eyes.
Okay. And so are the rest of you sort of following along?
I'll also send my bird to do the same.
Okay. Sure. So
Yeah.
what
Get
I would
some
like-
good old like cat and bird.
Ralph,
¿Qué pasó?
Ralph, a cat might not draw attention. An owl might be a little more.
Even if it draws
conspicuous.
attention, it's attention away from us.
Okay.
Yes, let me tell you a tale of when the Githyanki used to make great owl barbecues.
Ooh,
No, so-
delicious.
How many ways are there to skin an owl? Let's find out. One.
No.
Here's what I would like. If you guys are going to send your familiars into peril, I would like some stealth rolls and maybe a layout of how you're going to stage this um, in the scene as it plays out.
Okay, so the stealth roll would be.
Hold on, let me look at my bird stuff.
Oh, that's right. I'm making you guys look at your fucking character animal sheets.
That's why I don't
If
have
you
one.
want, I can actually probably pull that up. But I've got
Oh, I get a
crap
+3
on
to
my screen.
stealth as an owl.
I get a +4.
Nice. And
Hopefully that does some
someone
well
wants
for me.
to-
Nope.
if someone wants
Clumsy
to look up
kitty.
dim light and see what its effect on stealth might be, I would
That bird
appreciate
ain't fucking seen by nobody.
the owl evades barbecue today. So yeah, honestly, if somebody wants to just check on dim light and see if there's any advantage or anything that you roll, or if you roll disadvantage or anything like that, if there's a negative to perception.
I know I have advantage on perception checks. I don't have.
So, Dim light in 5e creates a lightly obscured area. Lightly obscured areas give you disadvantage on wisdom perception checks, but if players are not actively searching, they don't do wisdom perception checks. If
That's
attacked, it is dexterity stealth of the attacker versus the passive perception of the defender that determines a surprise.
That's fine. So in
So
this
I get
case-
to go in for advantage.
Well, if you want to see how the sausage is being made, they rolled a 3. So and that's a 3 with modifier. So
Oh, okay.
So essentially the enemy, or we're not saying they're enemies because we don't know that, but whoever is on the ship has disadvantage on spotting our duo.
All right.
So perfect. So you guys actually both make it out. When I say you guys, I'm talking about your little furry friends and feathered friends. You guys actually do slip by the notice of even the other. What you notice now? Do you can see through your familiar's eyes? Is this what's going on? Or
I can see through my familiar's eyes, and I can also smell what my familiar smells. So, like, my familiar gets advantage on perception checks specifically for scent.
Okay.
This would be an awkward time for it to smell its own butt.
Yes.
So
I have discovered my asshole.
A new love has been kindled between the cat and owl, where normally the owl is a predator, the cat is a predator. They have met, and it's kismet. They now are boning, and they're gonna make something weird.
Oh shit, we're gonna
No,
fuck.
so all right. So you guys definitely sneak past any other pirates aboard the ship. And they're definitely in the garb of pirates, a little stranger than what you're used to. This seems out of place, but you've never seen a ship like this, and you've never seen people like this. If they are people at all,
Those are terrible.
yeah. So what do we got here? So what is this, John? What is that roll?
It's from Friends.
that 9 I just rolled was I'm trying to stealthily rifle through my bag to grab the largest of the goat figurines.
Okay, cool. And so you do that without notice. In this case, we'll use that perception check anyway, because their passive perception might have actually something anyway. So Alt Peter, this is what? This is a perception check?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
the worst perception check ever.
Wait, that's with advantage? Oh,
That's
geez,
with advantage.
yeah. Oof. So, a cat is going to have it's going to know what things smell like for the most part. There are maybe details lost, and you have the feeling that it's just the general stink of sweat that you might find on a pirate ship. There's gunpowder that sort of overwhelms the senses. The sort of in terms of sound, the explosions are a little bewildering to the cat. It's not normally cats, think to hang around just explosions of people running around, stomping everywhere, and clanging and banging things and explosions going off. Um, but that's pretty much it so far. You haven't really seen anything. And as I'm assuming you want the cat to go up the stairs as well as, and we want Owler up there as well, right?
Yes.
Should
Providing
just roll
both
one for sight
land
as well?
and air support.
Air support. Also, are there AIM 120 missiles loaded, or do you have the short range IR? Anyway, so the owl as well, and we are sticking with Owler, right?
Owler, yes.
Ridiculous familiars titles. Owler is also able to sort of flip from shadow to shadow. Maybe that's not Owler's strength, but as a predator that sort of is used to not making sound and pouncing upon smaller prey, Owler's able to also sort of get by, and in a way that actually makes the cat a little jealous. So you can feel that, all Peter. Raphael would, or I should say Maven. So so Owler gets up there, and these are stealth rolls, right? So the perception roll is only alt Peters, right? So
Yeah. Should I do a perception roll for sight as well? Like, because it would be separate from the advantage one.
We can do, yeah, sure. You can make a perception. Like, the both of you basically can make a perception check.
The animal, right? Like we use their stats, right?
Yes, for the animal. The animal. Oh, nice. Very nice.
The cat is not interested in participating right now.
Segment is more interested in the dirt between their
You
claws.
gotta be shitting me.
Yeah, very good. All right.
It's mad.
Yeah. The aside from the stench and the explosions and the sounds and all of this sensory input that's happening to these animals that have just been thrown into this soup, this just cauldron of cacophonies of sound, they aren't really super wary of what's going on, but they don't notice much until they get out, right? So let's say they do make their way to the stairs, which is 60 feet. It takes a little bit in there in terms of how much time it took for them to sort of hide and be able to get out. And Owler makes it out first and most quietly. So we'll use Owlers because the rolls are similar. So as Owler makes it out, the sounds are still there. There's really not much has changed, but Owler's able to sort of see the sort of structure above that sort of looms over the rest of the ship, right? And you guys have seen that you're on the sort of non-void ship, right? So you get the idea of what Owler sees looming above. There's a sort of Owler can sort of convey to you that image of there's a sort of captain's sort of whatever hold or whatever. The hold is usually on the bottom of the ship, if I remember correctly. But you guys know what I mean. The captain's sort of cabin. There you do see on that deck and raised up a little bit towards the back, and really in this case more the middle, but you do see a sort of another of the same humanoids that are sort of controlling something. It looks like they might be steering the ship, but there is no steering wheel, right? In the same way, there's no circular thing with the handles. None of that. It seems to be a sort of sphere that they are sort of hovering over, and they seem to be gesturing wildly and trying to get the ship maneuvered. From what you can tell, anytime certain gestures are made, the ship seems to sort of roll over to one side or turn or yaw. And you do notice that, but on top of that, you notice there's a sort of again, we're in battle, right? There's just shit going off all over the place. There are many more, let's say, Githyanki at the top of this. And on top of that, you see actual, not just Githyanki, you actually see, from what you can tell, and how is Owler conveying this? Is this all mental imagery, or
Yeah,
is there
just
you can actually
essentially
see the
closing
shadows?
my eyes and looking
Okay,
through
all
it.
right, so you can see that. Yeah, so I mean, you can roll me a nature roll just to see how much more you know about these. But it's another humanoid race. It looks sort of like a man lizard, right? For all intents and purposes. And they seem to be working together on the ship. Yeah, that's a 21. So yeah, these are definitely sort of like a lizard man that you're seeing, and they're sort of sporadically placed in there. You do see a lot of bodies. You see some corpses. You see men and women that are dying. Um, you see, you even see other sort of beings that you have probably never seen before. But we'll just use the same nature roll. Um, think of a ball of flesh that has tentacles. It's floating in the air. It has tentacles, sort of like
That sounds familiar.
floating down, and it has two sort of long eye stalks at the top. And this is strange because you see one of those eye stalks has an eye patch as well. It's some sort of pirate version of this thing. And so you do see that, and that's all sort of interspersed along the deck. And give me 1 second.
Oh.
Aww, so cute, but wrong.
Whatever.
Something like this.
Oh,
And
that is
so-
badass.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's one that's there. And again, orders are being shouted. There's just it's just chaos. And let's say we'll use a segment's perception check. Right? Did you roll a perception yet, or a segment for vision yet?
For a sight, yeah, it was terrible. It was a 9.
All right. Yeah. Well, it's enough to see. You don't see as much detail as you would have metagame, but you do see that the other ship is. You have the same sort of retinue. They're, at battle distance, so to speak. They're suffering casualties as well. But you don't see. These look, for all that you can tell, these look like humans on that other ship. So, and that ship has taken a lot of damage, right? And for the most part, yeah, that's what you see. You see there are actual ballista on the top of this deck. There are no cannons that you can tell, but it looks like the ballistae here are being used to sort of send giant sort of bolts into the deck and the sides of the other ship, and the two ships are definitely maneuvering. They are trying to get into a position for what they call broadsides, and they're both sides seem to be suffering some casualties here and there. It seems very busy. What?
Okay. Okay.
Oh wait, Rafael needs to pause, so let's.
Boop, boop. Give me a sec.